What is a coronavirus? COVID-19 is a coronavirus, which implies almost no to a great many people who don't work in virology or immunology. A coronavirus is a gathering of infections that contains well-evolved creatures and winged animals. In people, they can cause respiratory tract diseases, a significant number of which can be treated with over-the-counter drug. The supposed basic cold is the after-effect of a coronavirus. And keeping in mind that most are surely known and once in a while in excess of a bother, some can be deadly. COVID-19 alludes to the flare-up of the infection, which is separated as coronavirus disease 2019. The infection itself likewise has a name, yet it's somewhat of a significant piece: severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, or SARS-CoV-2. Some portion of that abbreviation might be recognizable, seeing as the world previously experienced a comparative flare-up of SARS in 2003. The infections are connected, and it wouldn't be not feasible to call this new flare-up SARS 2.0. However, you likely won't hear any expert virologists state that in the media. In any case, COVID-19 is a coronavirus, and it is spreading, yet that is not a reason to worry. Rather, it's a reason to plan and secure ourselves similarly we do when it's cold and influenza season. Where COVID-19 originated. It's notable that the infection was first found in Wuhan, China. However, it's not completely seen precisely where it started. COVID-19 is likely a zoonotic infection, which implies it tends to be transmitted among creatures and individuals. This has driven scientists to search for creatures that may have initially conveyed the infection. There are a great deal of likenesses between COVID-19 and two bat-inferred strains of beta coronavirus, which implies they are likely related, since the infections share about 96% of similar qualities. It was at first accepted that bats were the wellspring of the flare-up, which was pinpointed to the Wuhan seafood market, where extraordinary creatures are sold. As time went on, and more research was led, Chinese specialists had the option to establish that COVID-19 shared 99% of a similar hereditary data as a comparable infection that contaminates pangolins. This recommended pangolins may have been a go-between have for the infection, yet the exploration wasn't authoritatively distributed, and a great part of the examination remains unconfirmed. While deciding the exact beginning may assist virologists with bettering comprehend COVID-19, doing so isn't completely fundamental in combating the spread of the sickness, since it's been discharged into the human populace. How COVID-19 is transmitted. Since the primary day the world found out about the Wuhan coronavirus, its dread spreading started to rise. How was it transmitted? And what should be possible to restrain its transmission? Individuals have consistently dreaded Ebola, however that is far harder to get than something like a coronavirus. And it's everything about what it taints and how it is transmitted. COVID-19 causes a respiratory contamination, and it's through an individual's breath that it spreads the simplest. There are two known methods by which the infection spreads: individual to individual and through contact with tainted surfaces, in an individual-to-individual circumstance. The infection can be spread through close contact, which is commonly viewed as a separation of 6 feet. The manner in which an individual can pass it on is through respiratory beads, which are delivered when an individual hacks or sniffles. Covering one's mouth when this happens lightens the spread of the illness, and contaminated individuals should wear a face mask to lessen the danger of transmitting it to another person. Be that as it may, if it's not too much trouble, regard the Surgeon General's admonition, and don't purchase a veil except if you need one. They are not powerful in keeping overall population from getting #coronavirus. Yet in the event that social insurance suppliers can't get them to think about debilitated patients, it puts them and our networks in danger. The other way it is spread is through a surface debased with the infection. A ledge could have been in the pathway of a weed, which conveyed COVID-19 to its surface, contacting that, and afterward contacting your mouth, nose, and perhaps the eyes can bring about contamination. How COVID-19 is detected or confirmed. Perhaps the greatest issue with identifying COVID-19 of every patient is that it presents a lot of like the normal virus. To battle this, specialists over the globe have been scrambling to think of an approach to test for the nearness of the infection, and this has brought about a few diverse testing techniques. Perhaps the most ideal approach is to check for the infection isn't to check whether you can discover the infection in an individual's body, it's to discover the antibodies the body produces to battle the contamination. The tests that search for antibodies are called serological tests, and a firm in Singapore may have culminated in methods for leading this sort of test to discover COVID-19. Immune response tests are most likely the quickest and least demanding method for distinguishing the nearness of COVID-19, however it isn't the main way. There are tests right now being utilized the world over, which search for the infection's hereditary data in an individual's salivation, mouth, nose, and rear end. These tests utilize the polymerase chain response (PCR) technique, which is a procedure in atomic science that quickly creates billions of duplicates of DNA for study. While these tests can recognize the nearness of COVID-19, they can't distinguish individuals who were tainted and at last freed from it. Who is at risk? There is no known insusceptibility to COVID-19, which implies that everybody is in danger of getting and spreading their disease. That doesn't mean this is an ideal time to freeze. Since you may get contaminated doesn't mean you're going to fall over dead in a couple of hours. COVID-19 can be perilous, however, like most diseases. Certain bits of the populace are more in danger than others. Little youngsters, social insurance experts, the older, and individuals with an undermined and susceptible framework are the ones who are most in danger of getting genuinely sick from COVID-19. At the point when a solid grown-up gets the infection, there's a likelihood that they won't show any indications whatsoever, and won't become ill. This is one reason the infection has figured out how to get away from the limits of Wuhan, China, to taint the world. Tainted individuals who are asymptomatic become obscure bearers, and in any event, when and in any case solid grown-up shows manifestations, they are frequently gentle and similar to the regular virus. What are the symptoms of COVID-19? The initial segment of this square is going to list the side effects related with COVID-19 that shouldn't startle anybody. However, the last piece will be about the more risky parts of the malady. Try not to be frightened, as these are the most pessimistic scenario side effects that won't influence the vast majority who are tainted. The most widely recognized manifestations of COVID-19 are fever, hacking, and brevity of breath. These are similar indications a great many people get from the regular cold, yet they are the mildest potential side effects an individual can understanding. For the individuals who are under a more prominent arrangement of hazard because of an undermined and susceptible framework, or meet the criteria recently referenced, side effects can become unmistakably increasingly serious. COVID-19 can expand the odds of contracting pneumonia, it can cause various organ disappointment, and now and again, it can result in death. These are the most extreme cases, however all are of worry because of the straightforwardness by which it tends to be transmitted from individual to individual. COVID-19 mortality concerns. Indeed, COVID-19 can take an individual's life, yet that doesn't mean the world will wind up as it did in Stephen King's The Stand. The death rate for COVID-19 is evaluated to be 2.3%, and keeping in mind that that number may appear to be low, it's most certainly not. In the event that you think about the death pace of COVID-19 to something increasingly regular like seasonal influenza, it's significantly higher. Seasonal influenza has a death pace of 0.1%, which sees a normal of 1 passing for each 1,000 people. These numbers are resolved by means of the case casualty rate, CFR, which thinks about the all-out number of tainted patients with the individuals who capitulated from the sickness. While COVID-19 is a lot higher than the flu, it presents as a mellow contamination in by far most of individuals who have had it. Most of individuals who have kicked the bucket in China have been old, and investigations of passings from the infection show that the CFR bounces to 14.8% for individuals who are 80 and more established, while those between the ages of 70 and 79 have a CFR of 8%. For individuals who were at that point basically sick when they interacted with the infection, that number bounces to 49%, recommending they're the most helpless individuals from the populace. Avoid becoming infected. Listverse distributed an article on top 10 things you need to do to prepare for the coronavirus. Yet this was proposed to be a greater amount of an apocalypse-type situation. So think about it while taking other factors into consideration, of which there is a lot to be found in the remarks on that rundown. As a general rule, there are steps you can take to abstain from getting tainted, and risks are, you've been doing them from the beginning. Since COVID-19 is a coronavirus, which is passed similarly as a typical cold, the most ideal approach to shield from getting it is to wash your hands with cleanser and warm water. Abstain from contacting your face in the wake of coming into contact with anything normally utilized like door handles, and in the event that you need to head outside, attempt to stay away from debilitated individuals. Chances are, you do the entirety of that as of now, so you don't need to let COVID-19 overturn your life or your everyday practice. On the off chance that you have worries about ending up in a spot with a great deal of possibly tainted individuals, you can abstain from making a trip and going to occasions with swarms. However, that may not be essential. On the off chance that it causes you to feel better to wear a face cover, you can do as such, however ensure you get the correct kind. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration perceives 4 off-the-rack N95 respirators, which might be viable in halting the spread of COVID-19. 3M particulate respirator 8670F. 3M particulate respirator 8612F, Pasteur F550G respirator, and the Pasteur A520G respirator. These respirators are not appropriate for youngsters or men with facial hair. So it's time to bid farewell to that unexpected trendy person whiskers. COVID-19, HIV, and other conspiracy theories. One reason there are such a significant number of paranoid notions about infections like COVID-19 is that a couple of individuals genuinely get it. Ideally, this rundown will help with that, yet there are individuals who hear a remark like, this infection may utilize the pressing components of different infections, for example, HIV, and their minds will in general run wild. That finding was distributed by researchers at Nankai University, and it's actual. The infection has a HIV-like transformation. However, that doesn't mean somebody weaponized a type of HIV in a lab someplace and discharged it upon the world, as some paranoid notions have expressed. These equivalent systems show up in numerous sicknesses as the consequence of common transformations. That comment has an inseparable tie to the methods for battling the spread of contamination. And research like this assists push with encouraging exploration, which could ideally prompt a fix or immunization. You may have seen other fear-inspired notions, including one about another 5G remote framework being the reason for the sickness. However, this is so ludicrously bogus, it scarcely merits mention. The most significant activity with regards to hearing these accounts is, inquire as to whether they bode well, check whether they are distributed by trustworthy sources, and adopt a presence of mind strategy to anything you hear. What to do if you think you're infected with COVID-19. The absolute first thing you have to do is recall the words imprinted on the front of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which are, "Don't panic. Panicking doesn't support you or your friends and family. So you have to deal with yourself to guarantee you don't spread the disease and ensure you get the best possible consideration. On the off chance that you build up a fever alongside manifestations of respiratory ailment, you should call your human services supplier and request their recommendation. They will realize the correct inquiries to pose to help decide whether you have the normal cold, or in the event that you have something progressively genuine. On the off chance that you dread you really came in contact with somebody tainted with COVID-19 and are concerned you may have it too, you have to get tried. Since you are going out to get checked, be capable, and keep your mouth and nose secured. This will shield you from passing the infection to others, so in the event that you have a respirator or careful cover you can utilize, do as such. If not, you can utilize a scarf or comparable piece of clothing. Your nearby medical clinic may not yet be furnished with testing units for COVID-19. So call your neighborhood general well-being division for data on the best spot to go.